Hey YouTube, back at it again. Today I'm doing a rear struts and sway bar links and bushings on the Toyota Highlander. Now by the third row seat, by the cup holder, we need to get this panel off so we could get to the 3 bolts that's beneath it that holds the strut mount assembly. Now we have this little cover right here. Get a flathead screwdriver, pop that off. We use a Phillips to take this out. Now once you pop that out, take the screw out, it's just a matter of popping the panel out. Put it to the side, and we got 1, 2, and 3 nuts that holds the strut assembly, the upper mount, in place. Next we disconnect the brake line and the ABS sensor. The brake line is this hose right here, and it's held in by 1 bolt. There's a welded nut on top, and you get the bolt from the bottom side, the underside. Then we take the ABS sensor wire off, and that's another bolt right here. And we also need to remove that bolt that holds the sensor wire to the body of the vehicle. Okay, so here we have the ABS sensor wire. Took that bolt out right here from the body. This one was mounted on the strut assembly. Took that off. Now we have this wire that we could tuck out of the way. And the brake line, this one's off. Get a better shot right here. Took the bolt from the bottom and just move the line out of the way. Now I did another video on replacing the front strut. A trick that I do, I use bungee cord to hook in the caliper, or just wrap around one of these studs on the rotor, and then just route it and just find a spot to hook it someplace in here. So once you start removing, once you lose these 2 bolts, these 2 nuts rather, so we got one up top, one at the bottom, and that's what holds the strut assembly to the entire hub. Once we remove those and take those out, this whole thing tends to move, so the bungee cord just helps to hold it in place. Now the next step is to take this bolt out, which is going to be a pain. Now I'm actually going to change it, and that's the sway bar link, which connects from the sway bar. It has a ball joint on the bottom that helps it flex. It goes up, 1 solid bar, another ball joint, connects it to the strut assembly. I'm going to change mine, so I've already done the other side and I had a hard time getting it off. I had to use my grinder to actually cut it off, but I'm going to change it anyway, and I'm going to change the strut. My suggestion, you guys don't have to, but my suggestion is, if you're going to change your strut, you could get an entire assembly that comes with the spring and everything. You could see how bad mine is. It comes with the spring, everything's already mounted, put together. All you got to do is take the this one out and put the new one in. Nothing. You don't have to take the spring off. You don't have to get a tool to compress the spring to compress the spring and get the shocks out. You just get the whole assembly and put it in. But I suggest you get a quality one, like maybe a KYB or Moog or one of the top of the line Monroes, something like that. Regardless if you're doing that or not, I also suggest if you're gonna do your strut either by itself or as an assembly, I suggest these are cheap, are cheap enough. I suggest you guys do the sway bar link. You don't have to, but you know, that's just my opinion. That's what I do anyway. And I'm also gonna change the sway bar bushing, which is this bushing right here. That's a rubber bushing. You'll hear a noise when you hit bumps. You hear like a knocking noise either in the back or in the front. If it's in the front, it's these bushings normally that causes that noise, and one of the ball joint might be bad, so this whole arm is shaking, or the sway bar is rattling around because that bushing tends to go bad. Well, not go bad, but it tends to wear out. I'm gonna do the bushing, I'm gonna do the sway bar link, and I'm gonna do the strut. I'm keeping my spring, but I'm gonna do the strut. Okay, so sometimes these may cooperate. A lot of times they don't. Depends on the area you live in. If there's salt, you get a lot of snow, a lot of rust. But what I did, I just saturated with a lot of penetrating fluid to cut some of the rust. You could use like a wire brush to just clean the threads that you could see. Clean off the nut also. And I wouldn't suggest using power tools to try and get this off. I go with hand tools, and I find that in all of them that I've done, whenever I use hand tools, I have a easier chance of getting it off without damaging it. So in case yours is good and you want to reuse it, this is one method. Let me show you the setup I have. I just make sure the Allen key went all the way in. Wedged it. As I turn, it wedged it on the shock, well, on the strut mount, and then it has enough leverage for me to turn and just gently take it off. And as you can see, it's coming off. I'm not taking it off all the way as yet. Well, I'll take it off and just put it back on a couple of threads, because I have to do the same with the bottom one. Take the bottom one off, and there it goes right there. So now I took the two nuts out. You can see I left the top bolt in, but I took the bottom bolt out. You may have to use like a rubber mallet to tap on it. You get take one out. I'll take the bottom one out. Top one is more convenient to get out afterwards. And then once I do that, I come up top and I remove these three. Now after I remove these, if you notice, I removed two of them completely. The third one, I just left it in there hanging by about maybe 5 or so threads. Then I come back at the bottom and I make sure everything else is ready to go. So we have our lines out of the way. We have bungee cord. That's how I do it. Got it hooked around that nut right there. back around, and I just have it sitting on the caliper bolt. Now that just holds this entire unit. So once I remove the last bolt on top and then this one, this whole piece is gonna move a little bit. This is just a little security. So now I got all three out. Now I come back to the bottom, and actually before I take this out, you may have noticed the top one came out okay. Came out perfect. I just have it hanging there. It came out perfect from the strut, but unfortunately from the sway bar, this one's sitting so low, it's very rusted. So that one I'm gonna have to use other methods to get it off, which means I wouldn't have been able to save that arm anyway. It's gonna be totally destroyed after that. But fortunately I'm changing it, so at least that's a good thing. Alrighty, so everything is ready to go. Pop this bolt out. Now I'm ready to see. Once I got it out, that shifted, so the bungee is holding it. Now I'm gonna have to put you guys on pause. I'm actually doing this with one hand, and I'll let you guys, hopefully I could let you guys see the finished product before my battery died. Now when you're taking it out, please be very careful. It's so heavy, gravity is gonna let it fall. So don't yank and tug at it, otherwise you may break the ABS line. You want to be super careful when you're actually, that's where it mounts from the outside on the upper. Once you pull it out of there and you get it off this arm, you want to be careful pulling the shocks out, the strut assembly out. This is going to be in the way. The brake line, not so much, but the ABS line, yes. Unless you want to disconnect it from here. Could see a bolt right there to take it out, but I left it in. It's easy to get out without it. Pull it to the side and you use the other hand to maneuver it out. Okay, so I have the strut assembly back in. Got the bolts in, just not tightened down yet. The ABS sensor, that wire lines up. Everything's lining up perfect. Now I had to use my grinder to get the sway bar link out. So this is my new sway bar link. That's what I'm putting in. If you notice, let's see, on this one it has a nut, so you don't have to use a vice grip or even an Allen key to take it off. That's what it looks like mounted. Still not torqued down, but just to give you an idea. Now in the future, if you got to change your strut and you need to take it off, if you look, you could see that nut in the back there. You get an open end, it fits right over it. You could hold it while you use your socket to take it off or put it on. And you have I believe it's a 17, you could use an 18. you're not actually turning the nut in the back, you're turning the one in the front. So no matter how rusted it gets, once you spray it down and you put a nut, open end wrench in the back to hold it, then you could actually take the front one off. And that's the bottom one is the same thing. You could see it better right here. That's the one you hold like so, and then you turn this nut to tighten it or take it off. And the last thing I have to change is this sway bar bushing, and that's how it looks for the rear. Has a slit in it so you could slide it over the shaft. I've already taken the other one off, and it's just a bracket. If you look, see that bracket? So another half to it, and it sits as a sandwich like so over the bushing. So you see one bolt, 2 bolts, and once you take that off, you take the old bushing out, the new one, you open it, you slide it over, you put the plate back on, and you tighten these bolts back. Now, just for reference, the slit in the bushing that allows you to put the bushing on, this slit leave it at a 90 degree, and then you put the plate on, bolt it in, and it sandwich it. And you come back up top, you tighten these nuts down, and installation is just the reverse of taking it apart. Now don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.